Man, so I'm gonna be honest here, I'm really surprised we're even having this conversation here. And I say that mostly because of my own personal opinions on the guys that we're talking about. Now, we're talking about Seth Jones again, and if you don't know who that is, he's a really good, supposedly, defenseman on the Columbus Blue Jackets, whose contract expires next season, but it's already been leaked to the media that he does not want to re-sign. Therefore, trade proposals for this guy, a player who many believe could be in the conversation for best defenseman in the league. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place with this guy. But we had ourselves that article that I made the Detroit Red Wings video about from Sportsnet over here, written by Mike Johnston, talking about 7 NHL teams that might land the Blue Jackets Seth Jones in a trade. Now, if you've seen the Seth Jones and Detroit video, you know exactly what this article is about. It's Mike Johnston going out here and labeling different teams, talking about Seth Jones and potential trade scenarios that could happen for teams that might be willing to get involved. This article, as I mentioned in the previous video, starts out with an analytical depiction of Seth Jones' decline since 2017-2018. But the article goes ahead straight away and says that Jones is the type of player that would immediately improve every NHL team if he were added to the roster. Seth Jones is a big right-handed defenseman, 6'4", 209 pounds, who got 28 points in 56 games last year. Honestly, a pretty good point production rate. But the conversations amongst other NHL fan bases as to whether or not Seth Jones could be an acquisition for their team, it varies from team to team. The Detroit argument was easy. Sorry, bud, but it's a no-go for me, especially if Dylan Larkin is the guy involved. But when you go over some of the other teams, man, things get really interesting, especially if you try to take a look at the discourse behind some of these proposed ideas here. The one we're focusing on today is the Chicago Blackhawks. They are listed as one of the teams over here that could make a pitch for Seth Jones. The article says this, that Aaron Portzline reports the Blackhawks could become major players in Seth Jones trade talks. We know he would suit the Blackhawks uniform well, thanks to his time with the Portland Winterhawks in junior. Okay, that's kind of irrelevant, but okay. But how much Stan Bowman or any GM would be willing to give up would largely depend on whether or not Jones signs an extension with the team that trades for him. This is where things get really weird. The Blackhawks have a couple of extra picks from the Matthias Janmark trade they could use, plus youngsters Adam Boqvist, Nicholas Beaudin, Alec Regula, or Ian Mitchell to consider including in a package for Jones. Chicago now holds the 11th overall pick following the draft lottery results too. And immediately in my brain, I read this paragraph, and I was like, okay, what? Adam Boqvist? Are you really gonna consider Boqvist, Adam freaking Boqvist, for Seth Jones? That's gotta be ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous. Seth Jones is already probably in the prime of his career. Adam Boqvist is 20. Like, I'm older than Adam Boqvist by like a month and a bit. Are you serious? It's way too early to give up on Boqvist at this stage in his career, right? And I was kind of thinking, that's a crazy thought. Why would you do that? So I went onto Twitter, and I tried looking for other people's opinions about this, because obviously, I'm not a Blackhawks fan. I don't know too much about what's going on with that team. I try to pretend like I know what I'm doing, but I kind of don't. And so when I looked around for Adam Boqvist material, talking about what this guy's been up to and whether or not Blackhawks fans would want to see him get traded for Seth Jones, I was shocked to see that there's actually a really big part of the community that apparently would be on board with this. And I was like, wait, are you kidding me? No way. And the reason I felt like this, again, I don't really follow the Blackhawks all too much, I'm not really familiar with their situation, is because Adam Boqvist to me apparently is a lot more than what Adam Boqvist is to a lot of Blackhawks fans. I was super on board the Adam Boqvist hype train back in 2017, 2018. I think I had him going like somewhere in my top 5, something like that. It was crazy. I had him really high up behind Quinn Hughes, I believe. Actually, yeah, I'm just checking out the mock draft I made. I had him at 4 to Ottawa. Seriously, look at this old mock draft, man. But Adam Boqvist, to me, was supposed to be one of these next-generation offensive dynamo Swedish defensemen in that Erik Karlsson kind of mold. A guy whose edge work and overall sniping ability would carry him to being a top point-producing defenseman in the NHL. and a minutes-eating guy who could just get thrown out there to facilitate play positively. His skating and fluidity on the ice was supposed to be fantastic, especially in the offensive zone. His shooting was better than Quinn Hughes, who had a muffin at the time, but their passing and offensive awareness could be compared as a 1A, 1B kind of thing. It's why Adam Boqvist was the very first Why I Want video I made. The very first one, back when we were only making Why I Wants for Canucks-related conversation. Why I Want, by the way, has expanded to talking about just the prospect in general, so if you're a fan of any other team, hey, go ahead, check out the prospect reports. But Adam Boqvist was this right-handed dynamo, and because he was right-handed, I mean, that added value to his overall draft stock. That's why I was super high on him as a Vancouver Canucks fan. But now, you take a look at what Boqvist has done. He spent the extra year in the London Knights system. Okay, he was great there. 60 points, 54 games played, a point-per-game defenseman who got 20 goals. Like, come on. But ever since then, he has been steadily producing more as the years have gone on in Chicago. 13 points in 41 games last year, 16 in 35 this season, with a very good chunk of his production coming on the power play, which is something that he didn't do in 2019-20. However, it's not like Boqvist had the best season either. He missed time because of the virus. He was taken out because of concussion problems. He also had a broken wrist, which ended his season, I believe. Not to mention the fact that his overall play on the ice just wasn't as great in terms of Corsi and expected goals for per 60 minutes than it was last year. He took a little bit of a step forward. Sure, he was allowing less goals than he had been before, which is awesome. But the step forward that you wanted to see from a 19 to a 20-year-old defenseman just wasn't there. And now, because of this, you have Blackhawks fans that I'm seeing legitimately saying, yeah, trade this guy for Jones, come on. Like, I've been seeing arguments saying that Seth Jones is already better than Boqvist will ever be. And if you thoroughly believe that, okay, that is all the power to you. Absolutely, you have the right to do that. But let's just agree to disagree here, because I don't want to give up on a guy like Boqvist, who's literally just my age, after all the stuff that he's had to go through. This is a guy who, if you just played a little bit differently in the 2018 draft, this guy could have been a Quinn Hughes. Imagine if Vancouver goes Boqvist at 7, Quinn Hughes drops to 8, Chicago takes him instead. You have Oliver Wahlstrom in that conversation as well, not to mention Ty Smith, Keandre Miller, other defensemen that are out here. Granted, I know Wahlstrom isn't a defenseman, and Wahlstrom isn't even playing in the playoffs, I think, but this is the caliber of a prospect you have. Not even prospect, just a young guy. So to give up on him so soon in a trade for Seth Jones that ultimately makes your team better, I guess? I guess it makes your team better. But do you really want to sacrifice the long-term upside that a Boqvist has for one season of that now Seth Jones? You're not even guaranteed to re-sign him if you make a trade that big for what is essentially a rental. Seth Jones is only 6 years older than Adam Boqvist. Do you think Adam Boqvist in 6 years could go from 16 points in 35 games to what Seth Jones did, 28 points in a full 56-game season? If you do Adam Boqvist's math, let's do 16 divided by 35, multiplied by 56, he was on pace for about 27 points, which would have been exactly the same as what Seth Jones produced. Buddy, Boqvist was taken out with all this crap this year. That doesn't mean he was just bad. If you want to go out there and make a trade, I think you have conversations about the Mitchells and the Bodins and all that. Boqvist, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because I'm me. I really like Adam Boqvist. I think this guy's going to be great. I always have. So having him in this position where now it's just like, oh, it's trade fodder, you know? Boqvist, go away. Hamilton, Seth Jones, want to come over here? Let's do it. I don't know how comfortable I am with that. And again, it's because I don't know my Blackhawks, you know? I don't know what's going on with this team. So maybe everything that I've said here is absolutely wrong. If there are any Chicago Blackhawks fans out there, please let me know in the comments. What do you think about this entire idea over here? Firstly, getting Seth Jones. Secondly, trading Adam Boqvist for it. It blows my mind as a guy who has been super high on him for the past, 3 years. But aside from that, please let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that and bye.